Coffee shops. A place where you can just go there, grab a cup of coffee, and chill. You can relax, maybe enjoy a quiet latte. But what if there's some people there that's not so chill and more offensive? Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and put down your espresso for 3 horrifying stories of creepers in the coffee place. Coffee shop creeper. I used to work at a small, drive-through only coffee shop. We had a large, loyal following of regular customers who would only come by at least once a day. Most of us were fairly young, fairly pretty women, ranging from 18 to 30 years old. And because of the nature of our work, we were incredibly bubbly and sweet to the customers. Male customers especially took this the wrong way. One in particular was an old man who had been a regular customer since long before I started there. We'll call him Bob. For the first 2 years that I worked there, he was slightly flirtatious with all of us, but nothing that hinted anything beyond a grandfatherly kindness. He would come by once a day and buy a large cup of light roasted coffee, black. He'd stay and make small talk about the weather for a brief moment, and then drive off to start his day. Well, all of that changed in the summer of my 3rd year. Bob started coming through the line more frequently and staying for longer than he ever had. He'd come through once for his coffee, and then again just to chat. Myself and another coworker were quick to set up boundaries with him, making an excuse about a need to do cleaning task or prep an order so that he would leave. Our manager, however, was much more of a bleeding heart. He reminded her of her dead grandfather, and they bonded over losing loved ones to breast cancer. Slowly, he started to get more personal with my manager, sometimes staying and talking with her for over half an hour if we weren't busy. I didn't think too much of it. One morning, though, I was opening the loan, and I thought I saw what looked like his car drive by, slow down, then speed up and drive off as I was walking into the shop. On weekdays, we'd open at 6 a.m., which meant I needed to be there before 5:30 to get things prepared and readied. It was almost always pitch dark, and I'd be alone for the first hour until my manager would come in. I started to keep an eye out for his car in the morning, and I noticed it at least twice a week. My manager and I traded second and first shifts very frequently, so there was no way to consistently know who would be there at 5:30 and who would be there at 6:30. He must have been looking for her. After about a month of this, I mentioned it to my manager. She let out a big sigh and said that she thought she was crazy and seeing things until I had shared my concerns. We had both seen him watching us, creeped out, but sure he was harmless. We agreed not to talk about employee hours to customers for safety reasons. A while after that, he came through when I was alone, just after open, around 6:15, and started talking to me about my manager. Casually, he mentioned where her house was. My ears pricked up, and I knew I had to get him out of there before she arrived. Luckily, one of the owners pulled up in line behind him, and I quickly said, "Oh, the boss is here. Better get back to work." And off he drove. As soon as my manager arrived, I told her what happened. She immediately got scared and started taking him seriously as a threat. She has 4 children at home. She never told him where she lived, so this meant he followed her. He knew her kids' names from the stores she told him. He knew what color her house was. He told me. We went into preservation mode, calling the owners to let them know about the situation, which they brushed off. He was a good customer, spent a few $100s there a year. Surely this was my manager's fault, so she called a friend who was married to a sheriff. He put out a notice to the city police that they should intervene if a man fitting the description and vehicle was seen in her neighborhood. By far the scariest part was when we learned that no one by his name and description existed. He had been a member of our coffee shop's online rewards program for years, but the name we had for him was a fake. Was this the plan? After a few months of basically hiding my manager from him, he stopped coming by. To my knowledge, it's been a year and a half since he's been to the coffee shop, but I wonder who he really was, and what he would have done if we hadn't intervened. Coffee shop perv. This isn't as totally creepy as some of the other stuff on here, but my boyfriend worked at a coffee shop that had public computers, and I was hanging out with him, waiting until he got off. It was slow that day. The only other customer was this guy that looked like he hadn't showered in days, carrying a huge jug of water and a bunch of binders. He kept creepingly looking at me while I chatted with some other customers throughout the day, and it got to the point where I confronted him about it, and that his staring was too much. His response to me was that I shouldn't wear a dress so short, so I immediately hated him. A few hours later, he moves to the public computers, and my boyfriend goes out for a cigarette because it's dead, and texts me that the guy was looking at the most inappropriate shit he can manage to get around the filters and typing disgusting things into YouTube. The espresso bar is directly behind the computers, and my boyfriend could see everything, so he told me of his intent to approach the man about it and asked me not to get involved because I really hate pervs. He was looking at stuff like barely legal Asian breasts, teenage breasts, young girl making out tutorial. So my boyfriend comes inside, tells the guy he can't use the public computers to look at porn, and instead of being flustered, the dude had the audacity to say, "This is educational, and it's research." And they continued arguing. My boyfriend went to call his boss to get permission to get the guy out of there, and I peeked over at one of the booths and snapped a photo of him. "I'm uploading this to the internet to warn girls about you." It wasn't that serious at that point. I was just pissed off and trying to scare him, which it definitely did, and he noped the fuck out. But he left one of his binders. It was marked, "To do." Inside was his pathetic daily schedule, and a lot of self-hating notes around diet and exercise routines. Okay, pretty normal. Then we find monogram receipts and print-offs of this website of like Russian mail order brides, and emails of people obviously scamming him, and receipts of him sending cash after only a couple weeks interaction. Dozens of emails, printed pictures, lewd chats, still weird but not so bad. Then we hit the jackpot. Pages and pages and pages of descriptions of girls he had seen around the city, very thorough physical descriptions, alleged ages, schools, any identifying info possible about them, with lewd comments about what he wanted to do to them. I sent him an email from a throwaway account telling him I had all his info and was reporting it. And if I ever saw him appear in the sex offender registry, I would scan every item in the binder. Obviously, he could have just been a perv who liked to fantasize, but the collection info bit threw me off and sent a red flag, and the fact that he was just so matter-of-fact in defending his creepiness to me and my boyfriend was just something off. The whole binder is just really unsettling, even the normal parts. This isn't that creepy of a story, but I still have the binder in a storage at a friend's house, and if anyone is interested, I could show the parts. And I always wonder about the other 3 or 4 binders he had. Does he have more detail about more other girls? He was searching for teenage nudes in a coffee shop. I so thought he definitely probably drifted into child pornography area. He also mentioned about getting kicked out of multiple libraries and public places with internet. He referenced a couple times as particularly bad, so I think he might have been masturbating or something. Wasn't on the registry though, and the cops didn't care what he might do, but I still sometimes wonder about his exact creep level. I certainly hope I saw the worst, but I doubt it. I thought they might be beautiful portraits. When I was in high school, my friends and I would often hang out at a nearby coffee shop after school. There was a guy who would always hang out there as well. He was probably around 30 and looked kind of like an artist. He would sit in a chair in the corner, sketching. He would smile at me, and I will smile back at him. But we would never talk to each other. He became just part of the scenery of the coffee shop, just like the coffee grinders. One day, I went alone and sat on the garden patio, and a few minutes later, he came out and saw me. He smiled and went and sat in a corner facing me, and brought out his sketching pad. He kept looking up at me and started sketching away. I was a bit bemused, imagining that he was sketching me, and I thought it was rather charming. I just sat there, not wanting to ruin his artistic chi. After about an hour, he just got up and left. On later visits, he continued to do the same thing. When I was alone or with a group of friends, my friends joked that the artist guy must have a thing for me. I was interested in art and resolved to talk to him about what he was drawing the next time we were there alone. The next day, I was out on the patio again, and he came out and smiled at me. I gave a big friendly hello and started talking to him, and asked if he would like to join me. He did, and we drank coffee together for a while, before I asked him what he had been drawing. You. And let me just say that everyone who sees them loves them. I blushed a bit and asked excitedly to see them. He pulled out his sketch pad and handed it to me. I started looking through them. He was certainly a talented artist. It was essentially a comic where I was taken and gang raped by many men. In the pages, I was tied up, whipped, and then raped over and over again. Even my friends were in some of the drawings, in what appeared to be a forced lesbian orgy. He started chuckling, as I imagined I looked more and more enraged. I asked him why. It pays the bills, he said with a shrug. I slammed the sketchbook on the table and left, and never went back to that coffee shop. But I heard from other people he had been doing the same thing to other women, and was finally banned from the coffee shop for being creepy.